This design effect in Photoshop has been really popular lately. It's called the glass morphism, and I'm going to show you how it's done. Once you have your image loaded in, you're going to want to come down to where the layers are, and you're going to want to right click on your image. Right click, and you're going to convert it to smart object. You're going to then again right click on it, and we're going to want to duplicate that layer. So duplicate that layer. There we go. Next, on this top layer, we're going to come up here to filter and click filter gallery. This is where we're gonna select our glass effect. So this will be under distort. You're gonna click glass and go ahead and copy these settings right here in the corner. Once you have these settings selected, we're gonna come back down and we're actually going to create a blur effect. So again, go up to filter, down to blur. We're gonna create a Gaussian blur. We're gonna want a pretty significant blur. I suggest anything between 20 and 25, so we'll just go with 25 for now. Hit OK, and then I'm going to want to hide this top layer for just a second, and we're going to create ourselves a square, whatever size you want. We're going to center that, and then I'm going to come down here. I want a little bit of a beveled edge, so I'm going to create that radius of, let's say, about 35 and see how that looks. That looks good. If you want to do this a different way, instead of come down here and click down on this bar, you can come to the right and somewhere down here in the properties, there we go. So you can also select the size of your beveled edge over here too on the right. So once you have your square here, I'm going to come back down to layers. I'm going to make sure this one is in between the top and the bottom duplicated layer. I'm going to unhide the top layer, and we are going to create a clipping mask. So now you can start to see in the middle what we have going with this little glass effect. So now it's starting to take shape. Now next, we're going to come back down to our square, our rectangle layer, and I'm going to go click on the layer styles down here, and we're going to want to start with a beveled edge. So now up here we have our beveled edge. You can see the effect it had already on our little rectangle. Go ahead and copy these settings. You can also experiment with this yourself. So for example, what if I want to change the angle to 30? So I kind of like that. We're going to put that to 30. I want this, let's do it 60 or 70 looks like. Okay, so 70 looks good. Again, feel free to play with this a little bit yourself. So that bevel looks pretty good. So next I'm going to move over to inner glow. So here are the inner glow settings. Opacity I want on, yeah, let's keep that down at about 15. That looks good to me. Choke, everything looks, so that looks good. I really don't want too much of a inner glow, just a little bit here. So yeah, okay, so our inner glow looks good. I'm then going to come down to gradient overlay, and as you can see, every time I click on these, it already has an effect. They're kind of preset because I already did a trial run of this, but you're going to want to adjust your gradient to white and transparent over here on the right side. So once you have that set up, you're going to hit OK. And then you can play with, you know, what kind of opacity settings, how much of that gradient you want to show through. I suggest 30 to 40. Let's see, 35 looks pretty good to me. And I also, just to see the difference, you can turn these layers off and on just to kind of see the effect it has. Okay, so after that, the last effect I want to add is a little bit of a drop shadow. So we're going to go and click on drop shadow. And here you can play with, again, how drastic of a drop shadow you want, what kind of angle. So a little bit of a 130-degree angle looks good. And then again, you can play with your distances. You can play with your spreads. So you see how this starts to get spread out. You then can play with your size. So I'm actually going to size that up a little bit from what it was on. So that looks good. Again, feel free to copy these settings and then kind of branch out from there and experiment on your own. Okay, so now that we have our base design, you can then throw in whatever you want really in the middle of this. I'm going to do a logo, so I'm going to show you how that does. So this is going to be a logo from my other YouTube channel. I'm going to show you a few different ways to set this up. So the most common one is just taking your logo or text and just plopping it right in the center of your glass morphism. And there you go. So you could stop here, or if you want to continue, I have a few more suggestions for you that may look cool. My favorite one is coming down here again and selecting overlay. So we're going to select overlay, and this gives you kind of a your logo looks almost embedded within the glass morphism. So this is definitely by far my favorite effect. You can go through all the different styles and see what kind of other effects you can get, but this one is my favorite. So one other one I'll share with you is making that logo kind of the clipped out part itself within the clipping mask. So that usually works better with thicker logos, but to start, we're going to come down here and make sure the rectangle is selected. So now in theory, when you drag your logo inside of here, it should look like this. Perfect. So it should look like the clipping mask has now changed what it wanted to do, and put that right in the center. I'm actually going to lower it a little bit. And now you can see the glass morphism effect through the logo. And you can come back and bevel the white if you want, change it up. So I always suggest you play with it and make it your own. But there you go. That's how you set up the glass morphism effect. So I'm actually going to back up a little bit because this is by far my favorite look. So now I got one more tip for you. If you don't want to have to go through all of this again, if you find a cool new picture, what you can do is come down to the right and double click on this smart object. Okay, so we're going to double click. It's going to open it in a new window. Once this new window is up, you're going to import your new picture that you want to use. So you'll come down and place embedded. You're going to select that new image. I'm going to place it. I'm actually going to make it a little bit bigger because it's not quite the same size. So once that image is saved in there, I'm going to file and save. All right, so once that saves, you're going to come back over to your original file, and it'll be updated. So all that did was, once we saved that, it came and just updated the picture in this original file. And you can do this again and again. So same thing. I'm just going to go back to it, place embedded, click on that picture, boom, it's in there. File, save. So we're gonna file, save. It's gonna save. We go back and it again is changed. So that's just a simple way you can just update the picture without going through all the trouble of completely remaking this. And that right there is how you create glass morphism. So if you like the video, go ahead and hit that like button. Please subscribe. And if you have any questions, just leave those down in the comments. Other than that, I'll see you in my next video.